Hey, what's up guys? So time to take a look at all of the new and recently updated radar detectors. Now, the last time that we did a video like this was back in March, and since then we've had several new radar detectors come out, as well as a lot of updates to existing radar detectors. Some of the updates are good, others wind up actually breaking some really important functionality, and so in this video I want to go over those details. Now, if you'd like more frequent updates, as well as getting notified of stuff sooner without waiting for like a big compilation video like this, you can follow me on social media, and you can also sign up for my email newsletter so you've got a variety of different options as far as how you want to stay in the loop. Now, if you're newer to radar detectors and you're looking for a recommendation on which radar detector to buy, you can take a look at my radar detectors buyer's guide over on my website, which goes over all the top options. That way you can learn more about which detector is best for you. Additionally, if you click on the deals button at the top of the page, that page will show you all of the current discounts and deals for all of the popular radar detectors. And this page gets automatically updated every single day. That way you can save money on whatever radar detector, laser jammer, or dash cam you'd like to buy. And I'll put links to all of that information for you down in the description below, along with links to all the different updates and new detectors, etc., all the discussion for all the things that we're going to be talking about here in this video. And so with that said, let's jump right into it. Now, starting off here first with Uniden, they've been updating their different radar detectors primarily focused on laser jammer improvements. This is something that they've been working on here for a while, and while there's some improvements here, there's still some stuff that needs to be added, and it seems like they're also introducing some unfortunate bugs that are actually pretty critical that you need to know about. Now, if you look at the release notes for the R4W, R8, R8W, or R9W, you'll notice that it's pretty minor stuff, including things like how the auto JTK feature works if you have the detector set in pulse mode, to where how the system will rearm after it automatically disarms. However, these detectors all have the same issues that I talked about recently with the R9W, where if you have it set to pulse mode for the auto JTK, the system will automatically disarm the jammers, but it will not notify you unless you physically press a button on top of the jammer to manually disarm. Then it will say receive mode on the display, and you'll hear the alert tone switch now that it's in receive mode. When the jammer disarms, whether it's automatic or manual, it should let you know both visually or audibly. And hopefully this is something that Uniden can address in a future firmware update, because it's not included here. Now, perhaps more critically though, depending on which laser jammer you're getting shot with, they've actually, it seems like, broken some functionality with, well, the stalker gun. So like the XS, XLR, or RLR. Hey. Vortex in editing mode here. Quick update for you. Now, as far as the results that I'm about to share, after I had posted my results online, some fellow testers have also gone out to see if they can replicate the issues that I've been seeing, and they've actually been having better results. You see, with their copies of the stalker guns, the detectors are able to work properly. I've tested with 2 different Uniden jammers across 3 different Uniden detectors, and I've been able to replicate the issues across all the different systems. And so while I'm not sure exactly what's going on here yet, it may be less of a widespread issue than I first thought. But either way, let me go ahead and share with you what I've been seeing here across my testing. You see, testing this out with older firmware, I found that the R8W will detect and jam the stalker guns. However, if you're running one of the newest firmware versions, the Uniden detectors will no longer alert to the stalker guns or jam them either. And so it seems like at some point there's actually been a regression here where the newer firmware updates have actually lost the ability to detect and jam the stalker guns. This is actually an issue that we saw in the past with ALP as well, and they quickly released an update. Now, I know it's the holiday weekend right now, but hopefully Uniden can release an update as well to quickly reinstate support here to jam the different stalker guns. Now, this behavior doesn't happen if you're running the detector solo. In that situation, the detector can still alert to the stalkers. The issue is only present if you've also got Uniden's laser jammers connected, and I've tested this with the R8, R8W, and R9W and confirmed the behavior here across the different detectors. Now, there's also been another small change for the R9W, which I really appreciate. You see, now if you manually power off the detector, it will actually stay off the next time you restart your car. And this is really important in case maybe you're in a banned area, you're getting your car searched or whatever, and you've got the detector powered off because it's illegal in your area. Same thing with the jammers. Now the system will no longer automatically power back on every time you start your car. My wife also really likes it for when she wants things extra quiet and she doesn't really need any of the countermeasures. She can keep the system off and it stays off. And it's also really nice for me because I'm constantly running a lot of different systems, and it helps me avoid a lot of the interference issues I have with running multiple detectors at the same time. And then on the app side, there's a lot of different iPhone apps now that can integrate with the Uniden radar detectors and add some CarPlay functionality. I did a series of shorts recently going over the different apps, and I've got an article article on my website that kind of compiles everything for you that you can take a look at. I'll link to that in the description below as well. And since those videos were released, a lot of the developers have actually been making some additional improvements to improve things like not only the foreground alerts, but also adding background alerts in case you're running something else on CarPlay, improving the lockout behavior or the alert display as far as how alerts actually pop up on screen, etc. A lot of these apps are also compatible with other detectors as well, including the V1 Gen 2, the Radar DS1, etc. It's obviously not compatible with the Uniden R7 or R3 because those detectors don't have Bluetooth. And then as far as Android Auto integration, the only app that we have for that is going to be Escort Drive Smarter. There's not any third-party apps like Highway Radar or JBV1 that support that feature. Hopefully at some point they can add it if they've got the time and energy and whatnot. But in the meantime, something people have been doing is using some of the third-party mirroring options to just mirror your phone's display and show it on the Android Auto display. Now, moving on to Escort next, they've released a hotfix. It's a minor firmware update for a lot of their popular radar detectors, and it basically helps to address some communication issues for those of you guys running the third-party interfaces that can integrate your radar detector with your vehicle's heads-up display or the steering wheel controls. And this includes the iDataLink Maestro RR2, as well as the Mid-City Engineering Escort integration options. Moving on next here to Cobra, they've released the new Rad 490i, which is essentially an upgraded version of the Rad 480i. Now, the 480 is kind of a turd of a detector, in my opinion, and the 490i, which is based on the same platform but just has some minor improvements, is essentially a polished turd. Compared to the 480, the 490 has an updated case design, it's got a new mount, and then under the hood, it's going to give you improved performance, meaning longer range, improved response time, as well as improved filtering. And while these are certainly welcome and much needed improvements here, it's still fundamentally based on an underwhelming platform. I've also run into situations where the 490 has muted police officers for me, and that is never good. And so I'm not really a fan of the 490i. If you'd like to learn more, you can check out my full review here on the detector, both the written review as well as the full video review. Now, one of the new features in the 490i is its extreme mode, which helps to improve response time at the cost of some false alert filtering, and this new feature should actually be coming to the Rad 700i as well. However, even though that was announced a couple months ago, we still don't have a firmware update now for the 700i to add this same extreme mode capability. Next, let's take a look at Genevo. Now, they're a European radar detector brand, and it looks like they're going to be actually introducing their detectors here into the United States. Now, as far as some of the different detectors, they've got the Genevo Max, which is essentially an upgraded version of the Radenso Pro M with like a new case and a new mount. And it also has a little motion sensor in front of the detector, so to mute the detector, you could just wave your hand in front of it instead of pressing the physical mute button. They also have their Pro series, which is essentially the Radenso RCM. And their latest iteration, the Pro 2, features things like a multicolor display instead of a black and white display, as well as that same motion sensor for muting the detector with your hand. But we never got this version of the detector here in the US yet as the RCM. We still have kind of the older version of the RCM. They also have the Genevo Guard 77, which is a 77 gigahertz radar detector designed to detect W-band photo radar. Now, it doesn't detect X, K, or Ka band, just W-band. This isn't something that we need here yet in the United States, but it's cool to see them working on it so that if maybe one day we do need it, support is already being developed here. Now, as far as these detectors being brought over to the United States, there's been some people who've actually been testing some of these detectors, such as the Max, for example, but the reviews have all been pretty lackluster and disappointing. Now, hopefully, once they develop firmware that's specifically designed here in the US, things get better, but based on what I've been seeing so far, I'm not too optimistic, but time will tell. Next, moving on to ALP, they've actually bumped their warranty up here in the US from 2 years to 3 years, and this also includes current customers as well, which is great to see. Additionally, there's also a coupon code that you can now take advantage of to save 10% off on the ALP. Now, ALP sales are very, very rare, and if you'd like to take advantage of it, you can use the coupon code VortexRadar at checkout, and this will save you 10% off the price of your ALP system. Now, as for the Radar DSP, which is one of the add-on radar detectors that can plug into the ALP, this has actually been discontinued. It was essentially a Uniden R3 under the hood, but in a custom installed package, and then the ALP becomes your brain and interface and whatnot. I was never really a huge fan of it, just due to the fact that when you need to tie in Bluetooth to get the lockout functionality, the hi-fi speaker breaks, you lose a manual mute button, which is kind of a critical oversight to not be able to manually mute your detector when you've got it connected to Bluetooth, and so I've never really been a huge fan of the UI. Now, the reason it's been discontinued is that they've now replaced the Radar DSP with the Escort M14 radar detector, which is the exact same radar detector that's used in the Redline CI 360C. And so now you can run the ALP for your laser jammer protection, which does work better than the Escort ZR6s and the Shifter Maxes and whatnot, and get the Redline CI for the radar detector functionality. However, we still have those same issues that we had with the Radar DSP on the UI side. Furthermore, testing it out, I actually find that I get more false alerts when the Redline CI's antennas are plugged into the ALP CPU compared to when it's plugged into the Escort CPU. Now, my biggest complaint though is the lack of a physical mute button, so I can't mute my detector when I've got it connected to Bluetooth to get my lockout functionality, which is obviously really important and necessary when you're driving around in town. And I still have some of the audio delays, particularly when I use a wired CarPlay connectivity option. This isn't like an ALP issue, this is just latency due to the wireless CarPlay connectivity. It does work a little bit better if you're using wired CarPlay or Bluetooth, obviously varies depending on your car and how it actually connects. But I do find it to be an issue when like the ALP lights up with the LED and I don't know, like, okay, am I getting nailed with laser right now, and do I need to be hard on the brakes to disable my jammers, or is this just another radar false alert because it uses the same color LEDs and whatnot, and I'm just sitting there staring at the light and waiting for the audio to kick in so I know how to actually respond. So not a huge fan of the UI stuff, but luckily one of the workarounds, at least for the manual muting things, is the Dukes app for iOS. Dukes has added support here for the ALP, and I find that his Dukes app actually works way better than ALP Connect. The UI, the features, the lockouts, all that kind of stuff works way better here. And he's also adding support for the flick button. It's a third-party Bluetooth button that can interface with your phone, and it was added years ago, but it only works for the Android version of the app, not on iOS. Furthermore, when I tested it years ago, I found a lot of reliability issues where it wouldn't automatically connect to my phone every time I got in the car, and so I didn't always have a good reliable mute button for my radar detectors. Now, luckily though, he's been adding this functionality here to iOS, and it seems like it's much more reliable here. I've ordered a flick as well so that I can test it out, but it looks like this is going to be your workaround if you're running an ALP with the Escort radar detectors or Radar DSP or anything else, and you want a dedicated mute button. You can use the Dukes app, have it connect to your ALP, and then also pick up a flick button, connect that to your phone, and now you have a dedicated mute button for your ALPs. And for more information about this, as well as, of course, everything else that we've talked about here in this video, you can just check out all the links in the description, and that'll give you all the info that you need about all these different radar detectors and laser jammers and accessories and apps and firmware updates and discussions, etc. And so with that said, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.